Hi, and welcome everybody. I'm Soledad O'Brien. I am a journalist and I am an entrepreneur, and I am very delighted to welcome you to this QuickBooks Small Business Roundtable. Today, we have brought together some truly spectacular entrepreneurs to talk about why prioritizing their physical and mental health and wellness is a really essential part of their entrepreneurial journey. And listen, it's just not always easy. We're going to ask them to share their wellness and their self-care tips as well. We're going to be talking about challenges, of course, but we'll also be talking about the happiness, the joy, because a lot of the joy in the face of challenge, frankly, is a really important part of wellness. I want to welcome the small business owners and entrepreneurs who are in our audience today. And we also want to hear your tips and your advice and how you get through when the going is hard. We love everyone's advice, especially about your health and your wellness and your self-care. And you can share your stories in the roundtable chat, which is a little green pop-up in the right corner of your bottom right corner of your screen. And you can join us on Twitter, my favorite platform, using the hashtag small biz success, and also hashtag Black History Month, because yes, we are having this discussion on the first day of Black History Month in the United States and in Canada. It is a month, of course, where we look back and celebrate the history makers of the past, and also celebrate the iconic and important Black individuals who are creating change in our world today. So in that spirit, I am beyond excited to introduce an award-winning actor, producer, I just think full-on icon. She's the founder and CEO of Pattern Beauty. She's a boundary breaker. She's an advocate. She's a woman who is hysterical all the time and is really always full of light and joy and laughter. Please join me in welcoming Tracee Ellis Ross. Hi, Tracee. Nice to see
Hi,
you.
it's so good to see you. Thank you for having me. What a sweet introduction. I loved it.
You listen. There are so many instances that I can think of. I mean, Blackish. I laugh out loud on the plane. It's so embarrassing because the guy next to you has no idea what you're doing.
No,
Hilarious.
laughter's contagious, so that I think that's a good thing. You should laugh and let everybody catch
I
it.
love it. I wanted to start really with everyone today. So I'll start with you with a kind of a simple question. Because we're talking about mental health and physical health and wellness, how are you? It's been a crazy couple of years, and I think all of us are like tightly wound and stressed. How are you doing?
I'm fine. Like everybody, time feels like it's changed since the pandemic. It's like a time warp of sorts, and some things feel longer than others and shorter than others. But it's a daily reprieve. It's sort of one day, one moment at a time. For me personally, right now, we just finished production on Blackish, so I'm finding my post Blackish legs and sort of what my life feels like and looks like outside of that grind that I was in. But everybody is dealing with such a, here's what I'll say. It feels like we are sort of used to the exhaustion and trying to realize that the old before pandemic is not coming back. And what does this new experience look like? What do our lives feel like and look like now?
For those of us who are watching at home, it seems that wherever you are on social media, I don't know, on the red carpet, wearing all of your fabulous outfits, eating very hot food. You always show up like, I think all of us would say like, oh my God, that's Tracee. Like you are your authentic self. Like we're getting the real you all the time. And I think when you are a Black entrepreneur, often it's very easy to feel like, you know what, maybe I should kind of squish myself into a little box because that'll make other people comfortable. And maybe this is a better way to go about building my business. And I think, clearly that's got to take a toll on your health and well-being. Were you always like this, just yourself all the time? Is it a process? And how did talk about your early career and how you sort of came to finding the voice and the you that we see now every day?
It's definitely a process. And no, I mean, I'm 49 years old, and this me being me all the time has taken a long time. And a lot of courage, honestly. I feel like the journey of growing up for me has been mostly about becoming myself. And then that started with the process of learning who I was, and that takes time. So no, it was very uncomfortable in the beginning. I mean, a story I can tell is, I was a terrible auditioner. I'm an actor. That's how you get your roles. And I couldn't figure out how in an audition scenario to be myself, the person that I was in my room in front of other people. And so I gave myself a small exercise. If I could take one conscious breath during an audition, not try and get the part, not try and do a good job, not try and do what I was doing at home, but take one conscious breath in the audition room, I had won. And that slowly progressed for me to the point that I was able to not even think about taking a conscious breath, but that breath would lead me into being myself. And I took that out into the world, particularly into being an entrepreneur, to start with feasible goals, and really that the best thing I have to offer the world is myself. Like, no one else can be me like me. No one else has my experience, my point of view. It is the ace in my deck. But having the courage to actually show up as that person is hard earned and takes time. And I don't think anyone should go any faster than they can go. I don't think you can, like, you can't sort of go, I'm being me. Like, it just doesn't work that way. And I always say, go as slow as the slowest parts of yourself. Like, if you think of a tennis game, you can't play at a higher level than the person you're playing with. So I feel like for me, I show up and I like to bring all of myself with me everywhere, because for me, it's a goal of wholeness versus perfection or achieving something, or I don't know what the word is I'm looking for, but that's okay. So no, the journey of being myself at all times has been hard earned. I am basking in it right now.
Yes,
At
you
49
are.
years
You
old.
definitely are. We
Yeah.
love it. We are loving it.
But yeah, it hasn't been an easy journey, and particularly in becoming an entrepreneur and a CEO and having a new and small business and learning how to do that. It's been a process, a daily process that I think requires a lot of support.
Let's talk a little bit about that, because of all the things that you've accomplished over your career, and it's a long list, I was interested to see hair care as that next extension. Walk me through the process of that. Why that you could have picked 10 other things?
Honestly, it started as a personal need. I was a person with curly, coily hair and couldn't find the products that I needed all through growing up. And the messaging of our culture was telling me that the hair that grew out of my head and the way it authentically grew out of my head was not beautiful and wasn't worthy. I was told easy breezy, beautiful hair and bouncing and behaving. I didn't have either of those things. And so not only did I not see the images, but I couldn't find the products. And the products that I could find were incredibly expensive. And I was like, this makes no sense. Like, and the amount of conditioner that I was using, I was like, oh God, I have to buy so much conditioner in a month. My mom looked at me at like 16 years old. She was like, listen here, little girl, you're going to use the products that are in this shower, but you're either going to have to get a really good job or figure out how to care for your hair in a different way. And so it started as a personal journey for myself and wanting products that actually matched the support that I needed. And then as I moved out into the world, I realized I was not the only one, that there were masses of people that were also looking for products to support their hair. And the truth is, the same way I'm known for my joy and my energy and all that kind of stuff, I'm also known for my hair. And I had learned a lot through my own personal journey about what worked, what didn't work, what I wanted, the fact that a dime size on the back of them saying to use a dime size of conditioner. I was like, a dime size of conditioner is going to work for the hair on my arms. Like, that's not going to do anything for the hair on my head. And so all of these kinds of things and sort of redefining the way we talk about our hair and its gravity defying beauty and the fact that it reaches closer to the heavens than, all of those kinds of things and the possibilities, exactly the possibilities of our hair. I just sort of had put all of that stuff together. And then it took me 10 years, Soledad, 10 years to get my idea off the ground. No one was interested. The hair care revolution, the natural hair revolution was not in process. And I always like to say to people, the curly, coily, and tight textured masses, we've been here forever. We're global.
Yes.
We've been here forever. This is not new. Wearing our hair this way is not new. None of those things. So it wasn't that it was a new idea. It was that in the culture and in the industry of beauty, it was not considered an important idea. And in my opinion, a lot of money was being left on the table, but more importantly, the celebration of our beauty was not being supported in the appropriate way. And so that's sort of a really short version of how all that happened.
What advice would you give another entrepreneur who's trying to figure out, like they have a core business, the thing that they're known for, and they want to step out in a direction that might not even make sense to other people at first glance? What would you advise them to do to make it work the best it possibly can?
Well, I will also I will start by saying I don't believe in advice. I like to offer suggestion, experience. I would prefer, for my own experience and my my path, to offer inspiration and ideas for other people. But I feel like we are all human beings bumbling along. I don't know your journey. And so if what I share can be a springboard for you to come up with ideas that actually match you and work for you, mwah, perfect, chef's kiss. So I think the first thing with starting a business, any business, is really knowing what the promise is, what it is that you want to offer, what your the ace in your deck is, and the need that you are answering out in the marketplace. The other is to do your research. Well, on the first one, I should say, write a mission. It might change, it might evolve, but write a mission. It was my mission from the beginning with Pattern to create products that answered the needs of the curly, coily, and tight textured community. And the other part of it was to be an active space. At first it was, and this is the evolution, at first it was to create a paradigm shift for how people of color and those with curly, coily, and tight textured hair are marketed to. Those were the two things. The paradigm shift has evolved that I want Pattern to be an active space where we celebrate Black beauty. And those two things are my core mission, my why that moves me through everything. So I think really determine what that is for you. Run that by other people. Answer it for yourself. Answer all the questions. Every naysayer, be sure that you have clarity of mission for yourself. The other is do your research, do your homework. Things take time. Get educated. Look at the market. Answer, like learn how to be whatever it is that you want to be, or how to make whatever it is that you want to make, and really be an educated person. Social media has really given people a false idea of what it takes to do things in life. And it's like you jump from zero. There you go. I mean, hi guys. I feel like you guys have so much to share on this stuff. Well, I guess we're going to get into a conversation. I'm trying to follow Soledad's lead, but I mean, Kiara, I feel like I want to hear so much of what you have to say about this stuff. But social media has like skipped a beat for so many people, and they think that it's 0 to 100, and you can become an entrepreneur and a star. That's why I say, like, 10 years, people. 10
Right.
years
I didn't
to
know
get
it was
this.
10 years.
10
And
years.
I love that you frame it as celebration. When you talked about a celebration, I was like, wow, I have actually never heard anybody. I feel like Black women are told about fighting with your hair, right? It's like, oh, you got to fight with your hair. You got to pull your hair. You got to get your hair. You got to put stuff in it, hold it down. So I'm just like, wow, this is the first time in my life I've ever heard of anybody describing hair care as like, oh no, your hair is amazing. Celebrate it. Let's figure out how to make it great. That is just, it's so, I wrote it down because I'm taking it as advice, even if you're not giving any. I want to introduce you to our other panelists.
Please.
Yeah. They're just going to pop in right now.
Okay.
Nayo Carter Gray. Nayo is an accounting professional. She's from Baltimore, Maryland, and she's also the founder and CEO of First Step Accounting. Hi, Nayo.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here.
We are so happy to have you. Can't wait to chat with you. Also, I want to welcome Eden Hagos. She's based in, you're based in Toronto, but I think today you are not in Toronto. You're also in Detroit as well. Eden is a food advocate, a creator, and an entrepreneur. Hi, Eden.
Hey guys, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you.
We're so happy to have you. We also have, oh, you know what? I didn't ask Nayo, and let me ask you, Eden, and then I'll go back to you in a second, Nayo. How are you doing? I mean, I feel like, usually that's a question we throw out to people like, hey, how are you? And you kind of are walking past them while you're asking. And now mid-pandemic, I feel like I kind of stop and ask people like, no, seriously, how are both of you doing?
I'm doing great. I feel so blessed, honestly. I feel like I have a lot of peace that I didn't have before, and that has to do with prioritizing wellness right now. So right now I'm feeling pretty good and grateful to be here.
I love it. I love it. And Nayo, how about for you?
I am energized and jazzed up. This March Eternity, which us tax Twitter people are calling tax season, is in full swing. And so I am, all geared up and hyped up and ready to get to the thing and do all the things. So I'm really energized, taking myself as priority here. So, it's a nice journey for me to kind of be in the busy season and still prioritizing me. That very rarely happens in the accounting world.
Yeah, and I want to get some secrets of how you actually make that happen, because most accountants I know basically don't sleep between now and April 16th. We are thrilled and also kind of shocked, I guess, to welcome licensed therapist Keir Gaines. And I'd say shocked because he is a brand new daddy. Baby Noemi has just come into the world. Welcome, congratulations. You look like you're not in your PJs and you look awake. How you doing?
I'm fine. Yeah, my wife Noemi, we just welcomed our second daughter, Sydney. I have a 4-year-old and a 1.5-week-old. So I'm a high functioning zombie at this point. I'm not 100% sure I'm here, but it feels right. So we're going to go with it. But I'm definitely happy to be here talking about important things with people who know so much about it, to a bunch of people that could really use these words. So
yeah, really excited to dive right into this conversation. And also, gosh, with your life changing so much. I mean, a second, what my husband used to say, you go from like, now you're man-to-man combat when it comes to having two babies from one baby.
That sounds about right.
So how do you manage that? I guess, Keir, I'll have you start for me. You've got a brand new 5-minute-old, basically, baby. You've got a 4-year-old. That's a lot. And you've got a thriving business, and all of them need 126% of your attention. How do you juggle that?
Yeah, well, my business is unique because my face, my voice, my family, my perspective, they're all a part of my business, primarily doing my work on social media. So sometimes it's really hard for me to tell where one begins and the other one ends. I don't know if balance exists the way that I would like to believe it does, especially in this context when we're talking about the merging of wellness and business, wellness and commerce, because balance kind of says that these two opposite things that compete for space in my life can have some type of equity. And that's not always true. Family time versus work time, hard work versus rest. There's not always equity. Sometimes it's 99-1, sometimes it's 98-2, and then the inverse. So my wife said something really brilliant that I've took it to my internal way of doing things. And that's not to look for balance as much as I should look for harmony. So that's my new thing. I'm looking for harmony. Harmony to me says that all of these different pitches and melodies and different voices can all exist at once in a way that pleases me. It's not always equitable. It's not always going to feel fair and balanced in my head. But from moment to moment, I find a way to make it work and make it all sound really beautiful.
Oh, I like that. And I love the shift.
Wrote that down.
Wrote
that down.
Right. I did same exact thing. I love that move away from balance, which always just sounded impossible to achieve, frankly.
Yeah.
And harmony feels a little more peaceful. So let's talk a little bit about how we get through difficult times. This recent QuickBooks survey, Black respondents said when it comes to their well-being, mental health is what they're least comfortable talking about with others. So let's dive right into it. And Tracy, I'm going to start with you. When you're in a slump, if you've been in a slump, and I'm going to guess we've all been in a slump at some point, how did you push through? What advice would you give an entrepreneur who just feels like it is not going the way I need it to go? Why don't you start us off, Tracy?
Well, I mean, I'm in a slump all the time. Like for example, I did not sleep at all last night, at all. I went to bed at 11, woke up at 1:30 and could not go back to sleep. And when I was working on Blackish, I didn't it's not like I could just go back to bed and sort of have the day. It makes the day hard. I think one of the things that, and I think all of us deal with different versions of that. Sometimes it's not that we wake up, it's that we don't have enough time to get the sleep that we need. You've got a newborn. People are working multiple jobs. People are trying to start a business while doing the job that they're doing. You know, how do you find the harmony in all of those things? And for me, I really work from a place of my goal is wholeness and making space for all of it, and acknowledging and being honest about where I'm at, and to the best of my ability doing that with the people that are around me. You know, being clear, like, I'm really tired today. You know, I'm moving a little slower. And the other thing is, I there's a couple of little key phrases I use. Gentle, gentle. I say it twice because sometimes that first one just does not land. And then another friend of mine always used to say to me, give yourself 10,000 breaks, and when those are done, give yourself 10,000 more. I don't know that many of us, most people wake up in the morning and think, I'm going to do my best today. Most people don't wake up and say, I'm going to mess this day up. And sometimes even when we know better, we don't always do better. Sometimes when we have those options, it's not always easy to choose them. Sometimes when we should go to bed at 10, we go to bed at 4. You know what I mean? Like, there's all these things that occur. But if you can be gentle and loving with yourself and give yourself those breaks of being a human being, I think it makes a life more compassionate with yourself and others, because we're all human beings kind of trying to figure this thing out. But self-care, I just do want to say that for an entrepreneur, for a small business owner, for a human being, is not just about getting massages. And I know that people, it's like, yes, that is a part of it. Those are some of the self-care things that you can choose. But saying no, a small no is a big yes. Saying no to your well-being. I like to say, if you can, give from the overflow. And that's not always an option for people, because we are burning the candle on both ends. Is that the way that?
Yeah. It's so funny when you said that about saying no. Literally, all the other panelists, so I can see their screens up, all nodded their heads with you, because we're all like, yes, exactly.
No is a complete sentence.
Oh my goodness,
sentence.
right? So then, Kier, let me go to you, because I mean, so what's the best way if you're stressed and you're trying to push through a difficult time? Like, I actually think saying no to everything that's coming down the pike is a really good first step, right? Like, step one, clear your plate, get rid of everything you don't need to be dealing with right now. What else do you recommend?
Yeah, I think Tracy really hit the nail on the head here when she talked about gentle, and being gentle with yourself. We think about boundaries all the time. Since we're talking about social media, we hear it, so let's talk about it. Social media is a predominant voice in a lot of our heads. It's a collection of how all of us think. And one thing that social media kind of conditions us to believe is that we always have to pound it and go very hard. And it always talks about, boundaries, setting boundaries with people and our relationships with people, but there's also a relationship with business. And when to cut it off, and when to be okay with your relationship with your business. Say, hey, I put all that I can in today. It's not where I ideally would like to be, but this is the best effort that I can put forth, and I'm okay with this stopping point. So I think it's giving yourself grace and understanding that you are very human and that you do have limitations. And the limitations don't make you weak, they make you a person, and stopping points are healthy. So by just really reaffirming in your head that your relationship with your business is the same as your relationship with a living, breathing person, it requires boundaries. It's going to require you to say no to things that you might want to push through and do anyway, but you have to keep top of mind your overall wellness and how those little opportunities to just let those things, let them go over you. You don't have to catch everything, how they compile after a while, and they can become a great burden on you. So just letting them go by. Tomorrow's another day. You can restart.
Yeah, that's great advice. Eden, how about for you? What advice would you give another entrepreneur about who's stuck, who's stressed and stuck and just can't kind of dig their way out?
That this is normal. It's a part of the game. Business is hard. And I think, especially if you decide to bet on yourself and like take this journey, sometimes go without pay. It's a tough journey. So remember that this is a normal part of it, but you come first. So I agree with, Kier, you got to take a break. If you got to sleep, you got to sleep. If you got to eat, especially for me, you got to eat, and that's what I try to remember, like that this is a part of the game, that there are going to be challenges. It's not unique to you, and that it's okay if you need to take a break for yourself.
How about for you, Nayo? You don't seem like you get, I mean, right now, if you're revved to go and we're heading into the worst time of the year, if you're an accountant and you're dealing with everyone's taxes, do you get stressed? And what's your advice to help people learn how to not be stressed?
So I do try to keep my stress to a minimum. A couple of things here that I do. One of the things that really kind of helps me manage myself and my feelings and emotions and all the things is really writing everything in a calendar. So I live and breathe by my schedule. So if it's not on a calendar, more than likely it will not get done. I am a big fan of boundaries, especially in business, because, with everybody having a cell phone or access to you on social media, people believe that they have 24/7 access to you, and that is not true. So we have office hours and we communicate with clients during those appointed times. And I set appointments so that when I'm talking to you, I'm talking to you. I'm not being distracted by 15 other things. And so it's really important that we set those boundaries. I tell people all the time, you don't walk into the store and tell that store how you're going to pay for the item. They say, we take cash, check, and credit card. And so you need to be functioning your business the same exact way. And then one other thing that I do, I have my crew of colleagues that I call my biz BFFs. And we talk about all the things from business to family, but they can relate to all of the things that we're going through. And if I need to vent because a client may have done something that's crazy, before I hit send on that nasty email, that nasty email, I send it to my homegirls first and say, hey, read this over. Do I need to change anything? So having that kind of circle of friends, setting those boundaries, and then planning your day will really help lend to success.
I love.
Can I add something? Can I add something quickly? First of all, those are all such good tips, and I'm so grateful. There's two things that I do that have been really helpful when it's so busy that I can't say no to things. It's just what it is, on the plate. I move slowly from A to B.
What's that mean?
So my list, my schedule is what I follow. This is what I've got to do. So I try, instead of rushing and moving really fast, thinking it's going to make everything fit in, I try and walk slowly and be where my feet are. And I try and give myself the ease on the in-between. The other thing is, when I can, I close my eyes and I just breathe. If I'm sitting in that chair waiting, whatever that is. Another tip I'm going to give people is hungry, angry, lonely, tired. Halt. If you're hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, give yourself a halt, just a pause. Even if it's 2 minutes in the bathroom stall, even if it's 2 seconds where you can sit down and just take a deep breath in your car, those moments really create a nice space for you that even if it's jam-packed, you don't have to move at the pace of the train. I imagine the train is moving so fast, you can move between compartments at a pace that actually matches where you're at.
That is such great advice, because I do think when we're stressed and we start running, right? And then you realize you're running and you're sprinting, and now you're sprinting through your errands or the meetings and you forgot your handbag, and all of a sudden, the rush is what's messing you up even more. I think that's fantastic.
Can I add something to that?
Of course.
One other thing I also love to do is the Pomodoro technique, is so that when I have things to do, Pomodoros are like 25 minutes, because it's a known fact
Chunks
that
of time.
Yes,
Chunks of time where you can sort of
So I try
focus
to break that thing up into 25-minute sections. You work for 25 minutes and give yourself a 5-minute break and then get back to it. So that way you're not, I got to get this done. You're not stressed about it. You know that in 25 minutes, I get a 5-minute break. And that 5-minute break can be to walk around the block. It could be to scroll on social media. It could be to go, grab you a cup of coffee. But you have that look, you can have that coming up. So it kind of eases the stress of, oh my God, I got to get this done by the end of the day.
So this data point was really concerning for me, right? So a QuickBooks survey found that almost a third of Black respondents say they cannot prioritize self-care as much as they would like. And a quarter say that self-care isn't important to them. I think those people may just need more time in their day, because I think it's super important. What is self-care? So Tracy, why don't you start? What does that even mean to you? You were laughingly talking about massages, but I think for some people, they do think self-care is massages. And for other people, it's saying no to requests. What is it for you? Oh, I think you're muted.
I think it's a personal thing. It's personal for everybody. And for some people, getting a massage and allowing time for that is self-care. I just don't want people to misunderstand that it's the only version of self-care. For some people, for me, for example, remembering to eat is self-care. I'm going to be a little bit graphic, but it's going to pee when I need to pee. I have a tendency to like go past that, but those are the kinds of things that actually are self-care. That's me caring for myself and knowing that I'm important in this scenario and my human functions need to be taken care of. So setting aside time to make sure that I eat. For me, self-care, sometimes when I have to wake up for a 5 o'clock call, I'll take a bath in the morning instead of a shower. It helps me to start my day with a little more gentleness. There's a lot, sometimes that's why I love this harmony thing. There's no way to match the output with input sometimes in my life. Like my career, my life is like, it's out. I'm giving it out. And there's no way to keep putting enough back in. But if I can do the small things, and then another version of self-care for me are treats. When I do something real good or something hard, because all of us in our lives, but there's things in my life that are hard things. They're hard things to show up for. When you have to let somebody know that works for you that they're not doing a good job. If you've ever had to let somebody go, that is terribly difficult. And even the smallest thing of, showing up at, having a conversation with a parent or a friend. And so when I do those hard things, I try and give myself a treat. And for me, that's like a bag of Funyuns, a bag of microwave popcorn, maybe a glass of wine, but like they're treats.
I like that. So, and how about for you? What is self-care, defined as for you?
So, I love what Tracy was saying, because I'm all about the treats, especially doing Black Foodie. But for me, self-care can mean a lot of things. One thing I wanted to mention is that when I was starting Black Foodie, like I was at the bottom, I had no money, was so broke and hustling, trying to do, side jobs to pay for my business. And I could not afford therapy. I could not afford a gym membership, but I could afford a walk and I could afford a call with my friend, or, just taking some time with my family. Like those were things that were within my access. Now that I've kind of, established myself within my business, self-care looks a lot like setting habits that create a life that I don't want to escape from. So like trying to get the support that I need to do the things that are difficult for me, within my business. Making sure I go to sleep at night instead of keeping my laptop open and checking my emails. That's what self-care is starting to look for me now, because like you can take the trip, you can do all those things, but if you're living a life that you got to escape from, I feel like self-care needs to be a part of your process.
Love that. So Kiera, how about for you? What is self-care defined as? I guess, now you have a new baby, so full on sleep would be a win in self-care.
Yeah, that would be ideal, but I don't live in the world I wish I lived in. I live in the world I actually do. And I think that's a big part of my self-care journey. I'm about a year and some change into my business, and self-care for me right now it's twofold. On one side, it's utilizing the resources around me, to Niall's point, utilizing community resources and peer resources, asking questions, knowing that I don't have to be the smartest man in the room. I don't have to have all the answers. I need to know, I'm better off knowing how to utilize my resources. And the second prong of that is being okay asking for help. I've learned it's difficult for me to ask for help. And especially with my business, my baby, my brand, this thing that I've worked so hard to get to where it is, it's hard to say, hey, I can't take myself any further than I already have. I need someone to help carry me. But I've learned that I don't lose any power when I reach out and ask for help. I don't lose any momentum. I actually gain something back. And just reminding myself that, because it's cool saying this in front of you all, but in the actual moment, it escapes me. So just reminding myself of that and allowing allowing people to help me and allowing people to positively benefit both myself and my business. It has really been transformative for me.
Naya, I'm going to ask you to weigh in on this next statistic, another one that's kind of really challenging. The QuickBooks survey found that almost half of Black respondents, 48%, said that they don't have sufficient health insurance or any at all. And around 2 in 5 have healthcare debt averaging at about $18,000. I mean, talk about what is going to weigh on you as stressful. How do you, I mean, especially now, how do you prioritize your health when it's something, I think, for entrepreneurs, all entrepreneurs, it's very easy to put yourself last and just say, I don't really have time for physical therapy. I don't really have time for that doctor's appointment. I just, I don't have time to go to the gym. I just don't have time. I have literally 27 other things that absolutely positively need to get done today. You sound like a big list maker. Is that what helps you stay on track with that stuff?
I'm a big fan of technology. And so I use technology to schedule my appointments, right? So I am a big list maker, I'm a planner, but I know that there are certain periods of time where I'm like, okay, honey, you need to go to the doctor just to get a checkup, let them run your blood and make sure you're not dying. Especially with Black households that have diseases that run in like diabetes runs in my family. So one of the reasons why I go to the gym 3 times a week is because I don't want to catch the diabetes. That's what I told my trainer. Train me so I don't get the diabetes. And he knows that that's important to me. But I use technology in order to schedule those appointments. So, most of the doctors nowadays, you can do telehealth. So even if you can't physically go to the doctor, you can just check in, say, hey, this is what's going on with me. This is how I'm feeling. And they probably can help diagnose you or refer you to someone else. Now, in terms of finding health insurance, because I do know that that is a big issue for entrepreneurs who, may just be starting their business and they're like, benefits, I cannot afford that. A lot of the states have free health insurance. And, although it may feel like a handout, just know that that will take some stress off of your plate, just knowing that, okay, I don't have to worry about health insurance. Even if I'm going to the free doctor for just an annual physical, I know that at least my basic needs are being met. But, if you're using a platform such as QuickBooks, a lot of our bookkeeping software has a special module just for insurance. You can even just look on there and see what kind of insurance they're offering, because sometimes we believe things are unaffordable and then you check and you're like, oh my gosh, I do have an extra $97 laying around that I can pay for some basic coverage versus, paying for that expensive gym membership that I'm not using. So sometimes we just kind of need to, use the technology that's at our fingertips, do a little research, figure it out, and then prioritize it. So,
and how is it in Canada? Because you're in Windsor today, right?
Yeah, I am. So as a Canadian, it's interesting because it is available to us. We can go to the doctors without having to pay. But for me, at least, and many of my friends, we still took it for granted, especially when you're on your grind, you're running a business. I just kept thinking, once I reach this mark, once I get this, then I'll go get some blood work, or then I'll go back to the doctor. And then I had an experience recently where I had someone in my family had to do an emergency surgery, and then I was taking care of them. And I saw how racist, doctors could be, how they were missing signs, how literally you have to be your own advocate, and how important it is to actually prioritize this to make sure you are preventing things from happening. So you're not.
I wanted, before you finish your answer, let me just jump in with a little data point about Canada. QuickBooks survey of Black-owned businesses in Canada. Black respondents report worse access to healthcare compared to their peers, and they're almost twice as likely as other survey respondents to rate their access to healthcare as terrible or poor. That's awful.
It is. I mean, unfortunately, it's not surprising, because that is the reality of being a Black person existing anywhere in this world, but especially in Canada and in the US. And so I do think, especially for the entrepreneurs, you got to take care of number one. You got to, pour into yourself, because that's all you got. Your business will not run without you. So take care of your health.
How do you advise folks, Kier, who are interested in getting mental health services and they want to do it through their health insurance? When I think that Niall's exactly right about this idea that people think it's totally unaffordable, that they don't even look. They just think it's not possible.
Yeah, so with health insurance, mental health now and physical health and well-being are so closely tied, and it just in terms of the way that the insurance companies look at it. All of the therapists that I've ever been through, and even some of my clients, they actually go through their insurance provider to find me. And one of the misconceptions is that it's very expensive, the copay. Most people pay about 5 to 10. I think the highest I've seen from state insurance for copay was about $25. Sometimes the session is free. Sometimes they have what are called EAPs, employee assistance programs. If you get your insurance through your employer, where they will give you 5 to 15 free sessions with a therapist. These are all state and sometimes federal resources and even privatized resources that you can use to connect yourself. But I read a story, because the resources are there, but the other point is actually connecting to them. And it's, when everything's a priority, nothing's a priority. And I just recently read this book that talked about habits and how difficult it is to just do something that that is in your best interest. And the first thing is just to make the appointment, just to pick a person, call and make the appointment. You did the first thing. The rest of it's easy. The hardest thing is to actually do the first.
I like that. That's so true. I think that's great. And really thinking about how do you help yourself get to the habit, right?
Yeah, because it's hard.
Yeah. And remove your obstacles for you. I think that's really good advice. So for you, Tracy, I mean, as we think about physical health, and I know these folks who've passed away this past year, all these, people who I know them personally, and we often don't, but we've just known them and loved them from a distance. But it is so heartbreaking, the number of Black creatives who have passed away this year. It just, it's just a stunning number. And I know the fact that the times are stressful is part of that. I know that it's just really chaotic, and the pandemic certainly isn't helping. I guess how do you get people to think about their health care when there seems to be, Tracy, so many other things that, that very reasonably they could say, oh, I've got these other things to do. And they're not making it up. It's true.
Well, I don't know how we get people to prioritize themselves. I think it's something that we have to continue to talk about and be transparent about with each other. A lot of the, some of the people who have passed, there are things that come up in life, and I don't know if they were preventable or any of those things, but I do also hear a lot about people taking their lives. We are, it's been a very, very challenging 2 years, on top of, for people of color, a challenging 4 years with a person in the White House that was not supportive of celebrating us, let alone keeping us safe. So I think really it is a matter of all of us being transparent with each other, honest with each other, lean into your community, allow your community to see, and those people closest to you to see what you really are going through and experiencing. This idea that there's shame in talking about our mental health, I hope that we are losing that stigma, particularly in the Black community. I love that you are a Black man that is a licensed therapist, but talks about your feelings and really how to navigate them and be with them. And to have that actual example of a person doing that is a really helpful thing. It's not that you have to see it to know that you can be it. But it's really helpful when you do. It's really helpful to know what those possibilities are. And I think thinking about our wellness in a whole way, our mental well-being, our physical well-being, all of these things are a part of being able to have the freedom to do to live out our dreams. You can have a dream, But if you can't stand up all day, you might not be able to do it. You know what I mean? If you don't have the mental capacity and all of these kinds of things. So I think knowing what your resources are, you guys have said so many amazing examples about where to find the insurance to really take the stigma away from how much it actually costs to go to therapy. It might even be free, you know? So, and also, by the way, eating well. You know, and it's not expensive to eat well. It just requires some thinking, you know, and I know it's easier to go to McDonald's, but there are other choices that can really also make you feel good through your day, you know, and give you more energy and fuel and help you think better. Yeah, I'm drinking my water with a little bit of lemon in it too, you know.
And Eden is giving you, Eden as a food,
Yeah.
food creative is giving you the big giant head nod and a big smile. I'm going to close out our roundtable with this last question. So a small business owner comes to you and says, listen, I'm stressed, I'm exhausted, all the things, frankly, you just teed up, Tracy. And Eden, I'll start with you for this answer if I can. But if that person says, I'm struggling to be optimistic, what would you say?
I would say I get it. You know, I understand, because I don't want to act like that doesn't happen. It does. It can be really tough, especially when you have bills and things that come up in business. But I would encourage them to like think back to why they started that business. What was that dream? What was that thing that woke them up in the morning? For me, I want everybody to celebrate Black food culture. You know, that's what I go back to when I'm struggling. So I would definitely encourage them to think back to that why, take a break, you know, take some rest, do something that's going to help you out in that moment, recharge, but then go back to that why and get re-energized for your business.
I'm sure, Keir, that this is a question that you get all the time, right? On one hand, I'm stressed, but I want to be an optimistic human being. I want to find the optimism, but it's hard. What do you tell people who ask you for advice on that front?
First thing I say is, how can it not be? I know that we're beating a dead horse with social media. Allow me to beat it again. Stay off of social media. There's this pedestalization and this over glamorization of business ownership, with people catching private jets and eating fresh fruit in Chile and being on yachts half naked, enjoying life. And this is freedom. And that's amazing. But I've owned a business for 1.5 years and I ain't been on a yacht yet. I tell you what I have been. I've been up at 3 a.m. when I just went to sleep at 1 a.m. in order to finish something, and completely ignoring my own health. So, you know, I know that these images that we see on our phones and on our screens all the time tells us that we're always supposed to be joyful. That's not a thing. And we have this obsession with positivity. Positivity doesn't always work. Sometimes things are hard because life is hard, and that's okay. I just encourage people to make the distinction, and this is one thing that I do with my clients all the time. Make a distinction between a tough moment and things being tough in general. You know, it's not a bad life, it's just a bad moment. And compartmentalizing that and understanding where you are in the mass pile of stuff that is your personal life, your romantic life, your mental and emotional health, understanding where you are versus where you ideally would like to be. Just being very honest.
I love that. I haven't been on a yacht either. I was on the Staten Island ferry. I don't think that counts, though.
That's close,
I haven't
right?
been
No,
on
it's
a
close.
yacht either.
Tracy, you ain't been on a yacht.
No, I just all
Oh,
that
come
stuff.
on, of all of us, you're the one we're hoping has been on a yacht. Come on, lady.
But you guys, the thing that's so bizarre to me is, what does that do? I don't know. Like, maybe yacht is the thing that is what you want in your life. Maybe you want to be a person who's on yachts, shaking your tush, you know, with a G-string. I don't know. Dropping it like it's hot, you know, but the things that make my heart sing are not necessarily for me on a yacht. If it happens to be that I'm on a boat with my closest friends that I don't get to spend time with, and I get to have time to connect and be with them, I'm game for it. But this idea that there's one path to happiness, and that happiness is the key. Joy has connection in it, has community in it, and and it's not a moment. It's something that is more than that. And I encourage people to build a life that matches them, not a life that other people think looks good. Absolutely. You know, and I will say, right off of what Keir just said, the fastest way to where I want to go is through where I am. And I always forget that because I think I'm going to go from like an awareness of I want something just right to the action. And the truth is that the space between where I am and where I want to be often terrifies me, but it can be so inspiring. It's one step at a time. And it's so often, I mean, again, 10 years, there's so many things in my life that aren't what I thought they would be or whatever that is, but it's good. And I hold the grief as well. I have grief around things that did not occur, that haven't happened the way I'd like. And I have those feelings. This morning, I shared that with my friends in my text thread with my girlfriends. And I said, I'm feeling some grief around some particular things today. And I'm not going to, they might never, that grief might never go away. So I just holding the space for a moment that is hard does not mean your life is crap. And really taking the time to appreciate the things that are wonderful, find the things that make your heart sing, and know that if you are going to dream big, you are going to be the one pulling it up the hill. And that doesn't mean something's wrong. And often when things feel hard, it just means you're living your life,
Nayo, I'm going to ask you that same question. What advice would you give to make someone feel more optimistic?
So I'm gonna kind of piggyback on Tracy's response. So one thing, I'm visual, so I love looking at pretty things. So annually I create myself a vision board in the back of my planner, and I kind of physically can see where I'm trying to get to. And then I kind of work backwards, like, okay, this is where we're trying to get to, what are the steps we need to take to get here, and then break them down into smaller buckets. So, one of the key pieces in my vision board this year is, being healthier. So I have a nice, pretty Black model who is working out. And so I said, okay, how can we get to look similar to this young lady? What we need to do? And so then I said, okay, it takes changing your diet and working out. And so I put those things on the calendar. I figured out a way to eat healthier within my parameters, right? Because we talk about eating healthier, not being as expensive. I have a green smoothie in the morning. I found these little smoothie cubes, just pop them in a little blender. They cost about $3 or $4 if you buy them in bulk. So it works for me. So I take that big vision and just kind of sit in it and dream and imagine and find myself, smiling about it. And then I say, okay, now let's do the work. What do we need to do to get here? But, whenever I'm having a hard day and it's rough, I just kind of go back to that image and look at it and say, okay, this is what we're trying to attain. It's all worth it in the end.
All worth it in the end. So then to that, Tracy, let me ask you one last question before we wrap up our panel here. You said 10 years you've been an entrepreneur working on this idea and pushing it and conceiving of it and trying to get people interested in it. What's the biggest lesson that you would say that you've taken away from that 10-year journey that maybe people who are in year like 1.5 of their journey could take some inspiration from you?
I would take the hit of the no's, because there were so many no's, and I would let that hurt or disappointment be there. And then I would let that hurt and disappointment inform me. I would ask myself the questions from it. So were they right in not understanding? Did I not express it well? I don't agree, or I do agree. Did I agree with what they said or didn't I? And how can I clarify my mission, my vision, and what I want better each time? And the other is that there's nothing wrong with changing course, and you actually know more than you think you know, and ask for help. Just ask for help.
Great piece of advice. Thank you so much for chatting with us. Before we let you go and close out our amazing panel, tell us, outside of eating spicy food on social media, which was the most hysterical thing. If you guys haven't seen it, you absolutely have to go Google this. I felt sorry for Tracy as she's talking while her mouth is on fire. Hilarious. Tell us what you're working on. Obviously, Black-ish coming to an end. Oh my gosh.
So the farewell season of Black-ish is airing now. So tune in. Yes, really great 8 years we did. I have a docuseries coming on Hulu and OWN called Hair Tales that is about Black women and our hair, which is a portal to our souls. I have so many things. Life is great. I have to say, I just want to say before I go, this has been the most glorious panel. I have learned so much. Ed and I didn't know you, Naya, I didn't know you, but Kier, I know your work, and I'm so grateful to hear you close up. And I've learned so much from each of you. It's such a treat. So thank you, Soledad, for such a great conversation.
Oh my gosh, thank
This
you.
is-
Thank you guys, all of you. As a big thank you, of course, Nayo. I know I feel like we're sending you off into the tax season where you're about to lose your mind. Thank you for joining us today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks again for having me. It's been truly an honor and pleasure sitting here with some amazing small business owners, and you, Soledad, and you, Tracy. It's just, my heart is beaming with joy right now.
Love that. We love that. Eden, I am so happy to have Canada represented today for Black History Month. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you. I'm so happy to represent. It's an honor to be with you guys. And I wanted to shout out, I'm wearing some of this in my hair right now.
Oh my God,
I love it. Kier, congratulations. We're so excited for you and baby number 2. Amazing. Really very, very exciting. And thank you for joining. I mean, truly, I know when you have a new baby, like anything is a lot in a schedule. So we are truly, truly grateful for your time today.
Oh yeah, it's crazy, but there is no other place I'd rather be, and this has been very informative. I got my notes right here, and I took a lot away. Thank you. Yep. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it. Tracy, what a pleasure. What a pleasure. We'll be watching the final season. Amazing. It's been such a great run of that show. What an absolute joy. Thank you, guys. Anybody who wants to reach me in any way on any of the social media platforms, Instagram's a better one. It's very more loving, I think. So at Soledad O'Brien is a good place to find me. For any information that you're interested, please check out the resources section, which is below the video player of this roundtable. And in addition, QuickBook blog is filled with articles and videos containing more useful tips and knowledge for new small businesses and business owners, including all that data that I was talking about. That's where this information comes from. So you should check it out right there. We would also like to give a big shout out of appreciation to the Intuit African Ancestry Network for their contributions to the roundtable. Special thanks to Nicholas Hardy and Catherine Adai for their contributions. They were amazing. And a big thanks to all of you for joining us today. Let's keep this conversation going. If you want to join us on social media, not too much, just a little bit on social media, right, Kier? Don't do too much in social media. Limit your time. But we'd love to have you join us for #SmallBizSuccess or #Black History Month. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. Today is day 1 of Black History Month, and I feel like we have teed it up to be an amazing month. Thank you, guys.